Welcome back to our Cryengine tutorial video set. Today I want to talk about vegetation. Vegetation can really make or break a map, so it's important to learn how to do it so you can make it look just the way you want. The first thing I'm going to do is over here on my roll-up bar, and I would recommend this for just about anything you do, is I'm going to create a new layer. So let's go to the Layers tab, and over here I'll click this button for New Layer. And I'm going to name mine Vegetation. And layers become really useful when you have a lot of stuff on the map and there's only certain things you want to see. So it's very easy in the Layers tab to click this eye and make it not visible. Or I can click the arrow and make it not selectable. Very easy. So the next thing I'm going to do on my roll-up bar is I'm going to go to the Terrain tab. And under the Terrain tab, one of our options is Vegetation. Perfect. So I'll click on Vegetation here. And the first thing you'll notice is you have this interface of all these different buttons at the top. And then you have a brush radius. So the way the Vegetation tab works is you're going to select the objects that you want to paint. You're going to give them certain parameters. You're going to choose the radius of your brush, and then you'll paint, and it will generate an array of the items that you have selected. And it will make multiples. You can change the size. You can do things, and I'll show you all of that right here. So you'll notice under Objects, you have a default category set up. Now you can use the default category if you want, but if you want to make it a little more organized, you can create your own category. So up here, this fourth button over, I'm going to add a vegetation category. And you might want to have one for, say, grass, one for trees, one for bushes, things like that. I'm going to go ahead and create a trees category. All right, so I'll click on my trees category here, and then up at the top I need to start adding vegetation objects to it. So I'm going to go in here, and you'll notice you have this file system, and over on the left you kind of have some favorites folders per se. An easy way to find vegetation is by clicking on the natural folder, and there's a lot of good ones in there. Under trees here, you can see I have a few options for trees. The trees that I like best in this folder are these locust trees here, and under here you have a lot of different options. So I'm going to go ahead and add two options from here. So I will control click and highlight two, and I'm going to click open. And you'll see that these trees are now added under the trees category. I have locust medium A and locust medium B. You'll notice when you click on these that the little dot next to them goes from blue to red. When the dot is red, that means it's paintable. When you go to paint your layer of vegetation, you're going to want to have anything that you want to be placed with a red dot next to it. So you're going to want to select both of those. So I'll click on one of these, and you'll see all the different options that come up underneath. I won't go through all of these, but I'll go through the ones that are most useful. So size is pretty self-explanatory. A size of 1 means that it will place at 100%. Size variation is how far the standard deviation will be from your normal size. So it will randomly generate a bunch of objects that are within a certain size variation. So I'm going to take my size variation and I'm going to put it at 0.5. So I will have a good mix of tree sizes from 0.5 to 1.5 because it circulates around my size that I have here. I'm also going to turn on random rotation so that all of the trees aren't facing the exact same way, just making it look more natural. Another thing I'm going to turn on down here is cast shadow because that makes it look more natural as well. So I'll turn on cast shadow here. And then the other really important thing is this density category up above that. So this took me a little while to figure out at first, but the higher the density number, the less of this object type it will place. So it's set at 1. If I wanted to place more per unit area, I would make that number lower. If I want to place less per unit area, I'll make it higher. So I'm going to go ahead and change density to 5 because I find the default density to be fairly dense. All right, so now that I've changed the options that I want on this object, I'm going to go ahead and make sure that's selected with a red dot, and I'm going to change my brush radius over here to be what I want. So I'll change my brush radius here, and then I'll turn on this option here, Paint Objects. And you'll notice that it gives me a brush over here in my viewport. So on my island, for a sample, I'll go ahead and place a grouping of these trees. And you can immediately see what it's done here. It's placed a grouping of random trees within that brush, within the size that I specified, and they have shadows, and it actually looks pretty good. And you can see how if you added several items to this brush, that it could make a pretty natural looking vegetation scene. And it works the same with grass, it works the same with bushes, it works the same with bigger trees. The other option besides paint objects that you have here is up along the top, you'll notice that you have this option to distribute vegetation on the entire terrain. So if you click this option, it's going to do just what it says, and any terrain that's above water, it's going to distribute that vegetation on it. So that's an easy way to not have to brush the entire island. A couple of other options you have along the top that you may have noticed is that you have the option to export a vegetation or import a vegetation. And this works just like a layer. So if you have one project that you've designed this perfect vegetation brush inside that has all of the right options selected, you can export that and import it into a different project and use that same vegetation if you want. So once you custom tailor the perfect vegetation for your scene, it's very easy to import it and export it into different maps to use. I think that covers about everything I want to talk about with vegetation. So with that, I'll close.